to the screen. Then the yellow, first of all, deemed that it was a dangerous play as he went just over the top of the ball, bounced off the top of the ball, caught the shin and ran a glory. But Wolves then afterwards, Squadry, who else? Matthias Cunha, a lovely finish, assist by Manexi on his full debut for Wolves. Wolves about their chances, but they got 10. All at nil, Wolves 1. Thank you, John. Half-time for Fulham Road. Sam Ashton.
Ipswich 1, Tottenham 2, a fine first half of football comes to an end. 2 goals for Brennan Johnson, the difference both very similar as well. Young Song with far too much space on the left-hand side. Both times as Lower Cross found Johnson. Johnson got one back into the bottom.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, bud. How's everybody doing? Any questions about anything?
Wouldn't know how to limit it to one question.
There's always a starting point. Oh,
We have a topic du jour.
well, I thought it was going to be sharpening, but it looks like Allan may be wanting to talk about focus stacking in Photoshop since it's his week. So I don't know.
I thought he despised Photoshop for focus stacking.
So did I. Who knows? Maybe he's discovered something new. I don't use it for that for sure.
Well, remedial focus stacking.
You use Zareen or
Yeah, I use Serene.
likewise?
But I'm not good at it.
How come?
I'm still relatively new, and I certainly don't spend the amount of time you guys do at this. I think Allan's he's even in his retirement, he's probably spending more hours per week doing this kind of stuff than most people do with their full-time jobs. He's just
Kid in the candy store.
hey, he's driven.
Well, the way I use it, the larger the things are, the more I use PMax exclusively. So for my bugs and stuff, I pretty much, because of all the hair artifacts that DMAP makes, I just went to PMax. But in the microscopic world, DMAP is better. So I had talked to Rick Littlefield a while back, and he kind of implied that bigger things did better with PMax and smaller things did better with DMAP.
I'd be interested to learn more about what those algorithms are actually doing. Not that it makes a difference, but just out of curiosity.
No DMAP is a depth map. And PMAX is some kind of pyramid. I don't know how it works, don't know the math behind it. But what I tend to do is where I find artifacts, instead of doing slabs, which to me is more difficult, I tend to do a focus, a stack of the area involved. So I'll go and scroll down, you know, holding down the shift key, and scrolling down, and you see where the problem begins and it's out of focus, and then you go to the other side of the focus, and it doesn't matter how many slices are in there. You say, you know, make a stack of the selected files, and it does, and then you retouch them together, and that problem's gone. Find another area to do the same thing. So I use substacks rather than slabs.
Most of the stuff that you do is insect related, correct?
It has been, yeah, but I got a microscope now, so I might be sharing time between the two. But yeah, I don't know anything about minerals and crystals, and maybe I'll try to grow some crystals, but I haven't done that yet. I'm mostly interested in finding how to squeeze the most resolution out of an image. That's sort of my impetus, and how to take that and make it into art, you know. So for instance, in my vertical setup, you know, you take it outside and you get the tube lens focused at infinity without the objective, and then you come back in and you stick the objective on there and you focus down and you get it as good as you can. And since I'm using tubes, there's a threaded adjustment. You know, when you're outside focusing the tube lens, and you use that threaded adjustment to fine tune it to your focus, and then you lock everything in place. But once you get back, you know, in the vertical stand, what I found is I can tweak that tube lens further by doing very mild rotations after I have focused as well as I could with the rail. And what I'm doing is, since the rail jumps too far, even at its lowest, smallest area, I put the whole rail on a manual macro focus, so I can very finely tune that focus. So the rail is, you know, is perfect. And once I have that, then I try to see if I can get even better with twisting the tube lens, you know, 1/8 of an inch this way, 1/8 of an inch that way, along a, you know, 52 millimeter diameter tube. So, and you can really crank in and find some really small detail, like on a silicone wafer, you know, so you can really see what's going on.
So, Bud,
Yeah.
have you tried the internal lens and a tube lens, reversed and regular?
Yes.
And which do you prefer? Do you agree with Allan that it reversed is best?
Well, it's interesting because reversed is what I use most of the time. Okay. And that's what I use for the 5 and the 10X. Okay. And it works better, it's sharper. But I bought another lens that was real cheap off of eBay, which was a Mitutoyo 20X SL, which for super long, but it has a lower NA, and basically it's soft because it's already into diffraction limited territory because of the NA.
I've tried it both ways, and I've not really been able to see much of a difference. But of course, since I work with Allan, I want to do it his way so we don't point to that as a fault of blurry images.
You know, in everybody's system, it could be different. I would try it both ways.
I have.
Reminder, check the run.
And you can't tell it much difference. It doesn't matter then.
What are you
So
guys
far I
talking
haven't.
about?
We were talking about reversing tube lenses and not reversing tube lenses, and squeezing the maximum resolution out of your system.
Roger that. How's everybody doing today?
Doing well.
Doing
There's
fine.
a good crowd here today for an AfterStack. Excellent. Sorry I'm a bit, well, I'm not late, am I? Sorry I'm on time. I've had several projects going over the last couple of days and have not managed my time very well, though Bud will be pleased to hear that.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
That's the top half. The second half is this. I'm waiting on the rubber grommet. This slides over the motor shaft like so, and then there are 4 brass inserts here that lock it onto your locking ring.
Interesting.
So it's a kind of self-contained. I don't know if it's going to be too heavy. That's my concern, in which case we'll need to find a way to brace this.
I can always print up a brace.
It depends. I mean, these are pretty stout screws at the base. It may well hold it.
Well,
And if it does,
you might tell everybody what it is, because
this is a stepping device for microscope.
It grabs around the coarse focus type handle and twists the fine focus according to whatever stack shot controller tells it to do.
Well, this is for the whole thing is secured onto that locking ring that you have at the base, and it's got teeth that sit into that. So hopefully it'll work. We'll see.
Fingers crossed for sure.
I bought a toy.
Yeah.
Look at that. A miniature arbor press for soldering irons. To put inserts in straight. Be the first time I've ever done that. But it didn't have all the parts in it. So there you go.
What temperature do you run at, Alan?
Pardon?
What temperature do you run at? On the
depends on the plastic, but for PLA, about 200.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
All right.
And I love these things. They really work. They really work great. So hopefully you'll have this thing this week, bud.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I can't wait to give it a trial run. Thank you.
Definitely. We may need to reinforce it, but we'll deal with that. Okay, so what I thought we'd do today, after thinking about everything we've covered so far, was taking a step back to something very basic. I used Photoshop as my stacking software for several years before I invested in Zerine, not expecting Zerine to be any better, really. I didn't know. And to this day, there are still projects that I think Photoshop is perfectly adequate for stacking. And there are certain subjects that are absolutely not appropriate for Photoshop. But I thought it was a skill that we all should probably have from time to time if we need it. So first of all, I'd be very interested to hear who in the group still uses Photoshop ever to stack with, and if so, when and why? Or what won't you stack with it? Does anybody use it at all?
A little bit, infrequently.
What do you use it for, Harold?
As you know, I have a blog, and so I use it for fairly unimportant photos that'll never be printed. And just recently, I did a focus stack. It was a landscape focus stack, 5 or 6 photos stacked within a Sony camera. It looked okay, but once you zoom into 100 or a little more %, you had out of focus bands using Photoshop. And so infrequently do I use it. There are just too many problems. But I know professional photographers that depend upon it and they use it. And they'll go through a stack and then touch it up, kind of like you do in Zerine. You'll find the photo that's in focus and they'll retouch their Photoshop stack. But I prefer just going straight to Zerine.
Well, obviously, yeah, I do too, because of the retouching capability of Zerine or Helicon for that matter. There isn't a retouching option in Photoshop except to do it manually from the masks. But we'll go through it. I mean, certainly lots of people use it for landscapes when they're putting together 2 or 3 or 5 images. The stack I picked out is a perfect example of when I would use it. When I would not use it would be for insects, anything with crossing detail. Do you ever use it, Graham? No.
Sorry, no, sound turned off. No, tried it once or twice in the past. No point. The other programs supersede it, in my opinion.
Yeah, the point for me is if I have my laptop and I'm traveling and I want to stack something, but don't have my big computer with me, it's perfectly adequate for that type of thing. Of course, you know, there are techniques that we use, like we talked about on Thursday, that can obviate the need to stack at all if we're in that situation, by using a tilt shift lens or by using a hyperfocal point type technique for focus. But I still think it's worth knowing how it works, just to have it in your back pocket. You use it, Bud?
Not at all.
Have you ever?
Nope.
It's a fairly interesting thing. I think you'll like it when you see what it does, even though it doesn't really correspond to any of the stacking algorithms that Helicon or Xerine use. It has its own algorithm. It's more like the pyramid than anything else. But why don't we just take a look at it then, very quickly? I just happen to have a stack that I'll run into Photoshop. Let me share my screen. Honestly, got to be honest about this. I went out for breakfast this morning with my housemate's family, and just got back in. Had not found any images to stack until a minute ago, and I found these bits of wood. I think I used them for a demonstration of something, but they're a very short stack. You can think of them kind of like a landscape, in that they each have a little bit in focus. This is the kind of image that I probably would select if I had to pick something to stack in Photoshop. So what I'll do is, I don't do any pre-editing with them. I just select all of the pictures that I want to stack, and just like you would normally do, I option click on it and go to edit in, and there's a particular choice at the very bottom of the list, which is open as layers in Photoshop. That's what you need to choose if you're going to focus stack images from Lightroom. That opens up, because my computer is really quite fast. Hang on, let me drag this over. Because it's not coming over at all. Let me figure that out. There we are. Because my computer's quite fast, it's already in there. But in the day when I first started doing this was by far the longest part of the process, was getting the pictures in there. But what it did is opened all 6 of them in order, and it has them ready to, first of all, align and then stack. You have to align them manually, unlike in a proper stacking program. All you do is select the first and the last, so the layers are highlighted. Go to edit, and about halfway down there is an auto align layers. Press that and it gives you this set of options: auto, perspective, collage, cylindrical, spherical, and reposition. I don't know what any of those are. I leave it on auto, and I leave the lens correction unchecked, and yeah, that's it, auto, and click OK. What that does is it aligns all 6 of the layers based on the content in the layer, and it moves the frames around as it needs to get everything aligned. I have not had a chance to ask Rick how this compares to Zerine's alignment process, but it's done. That was it. It did it. So with that done, they're still all highlighted. It only takes a minute to do that. You go to the same menu, edit. Where are we? Auto blend layers. It used to be auto stack layers, but yeah, we'll go with auto blend. And this menu pops up. This is how you make panoramas also in Photoshop, but it's also how you focus stack. You leave it on stack images, check seamless tones and colors, content aware fill for transparent areas, and click OK. And I'll show you the progress bar if I can get it over there quickly enough. Look what happens down in the layers area as each of the images is masked. And what it does is it gives you each of the images with its mask applied and then provides you with the stack as the top image. And that's it. That's all it takes. And I'm not unimpressed with the results sometimes, providing there's not a lot of crossing detail. I think it deals really nicely with simple subjects and small stacks. I didn't have a Mac Studio when I was using this tool for stacking because it would take hours to stack an insect with 30 or 40 slices, which was about as deep as I'd go back then. But you can go in and look at a single layer and you can see what part of that image has been left in. And you can use just the same tools you always would to paint out or add in parts of a mask if you wanted to tweak it. This is a handy thing that you don't get to see that often, I think. You can actually see where if you have focus banding, you'll see it as an area of where there's no picture. Pretty nice, I think, to be able to see what it's choosing as in focus, and I think it does a pretty darn good job of putting it all together. So for some things, I don't think it's a bad tool to have in your pocket, and I'm a little bit surprised that more people don't use it.
Alan?
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I use it a lot for if I'm just want to put a few things together, and actually I just did one last week, but I found that the perspective was going crazy with it, and it would just, take the picture and then it would just try and put it up into an angle. And so I did perspective first, and then I did align, and then I did perspective on each of the files, because it was only a 6 photo stack. I just wanted to get a little bit more of the horizon in there. But yeah, it just all of a sudden I had this huge black band of nothing.
Yeah.
On the bottom.
Usually when I would have those kind of major disruptions where I'd have a big stripe of the thing that was blank or transparent, it was almost always because I had misjudged my focus stack and I didn't have anything in focus there. And back in the day, it used to change the perspective of it would squeeze parts of the image to keep it aligned. It doesn't do that anymore. I think it uses AI and keeps the frame pretty natural looking like this. It didn't trim any of the frame out. Of course, I'm probably better at taking a focus stacked set of images now than I used to be, and I'm not presenting it with a lot of pure garbage. So yeah, I think it's a handy thing to have, and I never would save the project, but if you wanted to, you could save the layers and their masks and go back and work with it again. But it's quick and it's easy, and it's worth knowing how to do, I think.
Well, I found it you know, it was really helpful on the couple of pictures I was using it on. Because the day was freezing, I had no tripod, and I just wanted to get a little bit more. So I made a very long photograph.
Mm-hmm. I've done it myself just when I'm, spur of the moment stack to get something in focus. But yeah,
And it can cope
right.
with the sort of typical number of images we would put into Zerine, Alan, can it?
No. I mean,
Okay.
it can handle as many as you want to put in, but it's based on how much computing power and how much time you have. I think I haven't recently encountered a big stack with it, but I would guess that it used to be around 15 to 20 would be give up after that, because it would take hours to churn through all the layers. But of course, that was on an ancient laptop, was all I had, and that was probably a big part of the problem. This went very quickly today, a lot faster than I expected, and a lot better than I expected, to be honest.
I've used it for stacks of 50, and it's less than an hour. I mean, it's certainly not as good as Zerine, but the only other thing that I do differently is that I've recorded all of the steps into an action, so it's a single click.
Yeah, that's a hangover from the day when I didn't trust the alignment that well. Sometimes it would really mess up the alignment and ruin the stack. So I had an action at one point that covered the whole thing, but I like to have that opportunity to look at the aligned images before I stack them, on the rare occasion that I do it. But good point, definitely. Anybody else? All right, you all get to go home early today. Patrick.
Sorry, mic was off. No, not about Zerine, but seeing that we are using different software than Zerine for stacking. I found out this week that I had to do pictures for someone who is renting flats. You could Airbnb stuff. So, and I had to make pictures of those flats.
I want to wash my big blanket I'm sitting on, but you have shorts.
Guys, could
wash my shorts with that.
I get everybody
Maybe
to
you
mute their mics? Well,
Rusty poop on your
I think
shorts.
it's Mike Olson.
No, in fact, I pre washed them.
Okay.
And
I think
then
you
all I
can-
did was put a spray.
TMI.
You can turn him off,
In
Alan.
one spot, and it's about this big.
Okay.
yeah.
I'll show you if you'd like.
I'm washing my big blanket,
Uh-huh.
like I said, and I'm gonna wash it on cold. Is
Nope.
that-
Who was it?
Yeah,
Mike Olson.
that's perfect.
Do you think anything else
I-
is in there with that big blanket?
I don't see Mike's picture. Oh,
Those could be the most interesting parts of such a Zoom
Yeah.
meeting. If you listen closely.
yeah. I absolutely didn't want to hear any more about that particular episode. Patrick, sorry.
No, it's just one thing. I had to make panorama pictures inside the houses of the rooms there, so he can put it on Airbnb. And even with the 11mm, I didn't get the whole room on it, so I had to do panorama with 2 rows and 3 or 4 pictures. And I used the nodal point adapter, or however that it's called in English. So that was done, and I did a little bit tilt shift, but there are always little mistakes in the picture, and I trust Lightroom with that very, 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 very much. But it made mistakes, small mistakes, when it puts together the panorama. What didn't make those mistakes with exactly the same pictures was Affinity Photo.
Mm-hmm.
And that surprised me a lot. I used Affinity quite a while. So I had it on the computer and just put all the TIFFs inside Affinity and let it do its thing. And I got a really great error-free panorama. Whereas you know, I mean, I could have done it in Photoshop. Photoshop is better in doing it than Lightroom, but it was really a surprise for me.
Hey, Patrick,
yes.
Do you do these type of panoramas inside of rooms? My wife used to do that, and the trick to getting, we used a 12 millimeter, is halfway between the ceiling and the floor. You get your
Yes.
tripod, and then you level it all out, and usually you can get it in one sweep.
That's what I normally try to do. The problem with that was it's a very small room, but very high. It's a steep roof, and
Oh,
up there
gotcha.
was a bed, and he wanted to have everything on it. And if I went to the middle of the room, I had a really steep angle down, you know, to everything. So that was quite a challenge.
Yeah.
So what was the nature of the mistakes that you saw in, and you say you were stacking in Lightroom?
Not stacking, making the panorama. I didn't
making the panorama.
Stack. I just did the panorama, and I'm not even sure why I'm telling this, but I felt, you know, when we started to speak about using different softwares, you know, like it's sometimes interesting that programs we work with and trust, you know, Lightroom, just when I looked at the pictures, I had slight disalignments. I had little gaps sometimes in straight lines, and
yeah,
I was actually working quite carefully. So I was really wondering where it came from, and I was even more surprised when Affinity, without doing anything from my side, just took the pictures, aligned everything perfect, and gave me a really beautiful panorama.
But you didn't compare that result with Photoshop though for the panorama.
No time. Nope.
I don't know how they would compare. I other than I do some in Lightroom, but not. I don't think you can stack in Lightroom.
No, I can't.
Panoramas, yeah, but I don't think you can stack.
I mean, the good thing in Lightroom is that you can do the bracket panorama. You know, you can make bracket shots. You know,
HDRs, and yeah, you can bracket exposure and flash and all that.
But yes, and you give it all to Lightroom, and it makes a bracketed HDR panorama out of it. You don't have to do anything else.
Right.
And if it works, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of the case with the. I mean, the big sticking point for me with Photoshop is if it doesn't work, there really aren't any tools in there for you to fix it except to mask it out and do, you know, the nuclear option. There's no retouching. You can't look at a different algorithm and bring in the parts that work better. So it's just another tool. Yeah. Does anybody who uses Affinity what is the stacking program like in Affinity? Nick?
I walked away from it, Alan, because when I started this, because I think the first ones I came along with, I know the Crystal or something, and it just said, this is only designed for this number of images. And I think it was in the low 2-digit number, this sort of thing. I mean, it might have improved now because they're doing Astro stuff, which, as Julie will know, you don't do that with a couple of images. But whether you could apply it to that, but no, that's why I walked away from it, and, you know, made sure I was sure of what I was wanting to commit myself with all of this earlier last year, and then bought Zerine.
Yeah. Well, in addition to retouching, of course, the other thing you can't do in Photoshop is slabbing. You can't break up your stack into substacks, because if you do, then they end up getting aligned differently, and you can't put them back together.
Stacked in Photoshop has been I make star trails where I just take like a couple hundred long exposures of the stars and put them together and make a star circle.
Mm-hmm.
And before I got the studio, it would take hours to do that on Photoshop, but now it's not so bad. But for stacking photos for Astro, I use a proprietary program called PixInsight, which is basically does the stacking and aligning for you. So it's, but but in Photoshop, the only thing I would stack would be the star trails.
That's just made for stars, that insight thing.
Yeah, because it looks at the star's address, you know, the geographical coordinates, and stacks your images. Even if you're tracking, there'll be a little bit of jiggle between frames, so make sure the stars are on top of each other. So it's kind of like Zyrene in that sense, is that it's registering all your frames against a reference frame. And an idea, because when I shoot, I had the camera move a couple pixels between each shot. It helps cut out noise. And so the program says, okay, these stars go on top of each other. This is noise. And then, but that's, the program does it. And so, you know, a couple hours of astro photos, it'll take me about 20 or 30 minutes on the studio to stack those up. But star trails is the only thing I do on Photoshop for stacking, because there you're not having any alignment issues. So
Right.
So Alan, I do a hybrid system sometimes with Photoshop and Zyrene that you probably have heard me tell you about, where I actually make substacks of troubled areas, but I don't really retouch in Zyrene because I have so many other tool options in Photoshop. And so basically what I do is I take all of my substacks and the main stack into Photoshop as layers, and then I can paint them in using all of the exotic tools that Photoshop has available, and sometimes I get a better result.
Yeah, of course the difference is that Zyrene does a comparison of pixels when you're using the retouching brush that is a combination of blend modes that I don't know how you would do that in Lightroom. I mean in Photoshop.
I find I use the detail brush the least of all.
Interesting.
I use the Pro Pixels most.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, because I mean you're a Photoshop user, and that's the only tool you have in Photoshop, other than unless you're using blend modes.
Oh, I mean, you've got every tool that you could ever want to use in Photoshop. They all work. You know, you can use darken, you can use you know, the healing brush, you can do all of the stuff, the remove tools. It's just easy sometimes if I have an image that I really like and I want the best possible outcome, I try to see what I can get inside of Zyrene, but then I take the remnants that I need to finish it out over into Photoshop as layers and work it.
My experience has been that the retouching tool using the details brush primarily so often saves me from having to take anything into Photoshop at all, that it's the first line of attack for me, because there are some types of artifact that even Rick doesn't know why they go away when you retouch them from a PMax image to a DMAP, but they do. And you know, I think he's come up with a pretty genius tool there with that details brush. That yeah, if there was something else that did that in another program, I might try it, but that's why I use Zyrene.
The one thing I don't like about the detail brush is the contrast that it generates. It doesn't keep things dark. It doesn't keep things light. Yes, it brings in some detail, but I find that for my personal taste, it loses something in the contrast arena rather than the detail arena.
Well, that would depend on which way you were using it. If you're using it to retouch a DMAP from a PMax, it is going to add contrast because the PMax image has more contrast in it. But that is something that is temporary until you take the picture back out of Zyrene into Lightroom.
What I've found so far is that I like DMAP in the microscopic world because it's better, but I don't like it in the bug world personally. And so I don't use DMAP because it's too fraught with all of the the artifacts, and I can get all the color back. I can get all the detail back. So for me, it's just a way of saving me time. So if I have a Substack and I have a finished retouch that I'm putting the Substack and using that as a retouch now. So the Substack, when I use it over there and I use the detail, it loses some contrast. And I don't know why, because I'm going PMax to PMax. This
Yeah.
observation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that, you know, the reason we're doing this series is because there are many different ways to skin this cat.
Yeah.
And you know, it's largely dependent on what you're comfortable with and what tools you've been using and what your priorities are. Like for me, it's time and volume. And certainly I'm really excited about some things. Well, I'm not allowed to say what they are, but I'm really excited about some retouching things in the future. And I think that for me, it's that there's got to be a compelling reason for me to reinvent that wheel. But to this day, I'm still pretty pleased with the results that I get in the rare occasion that I need to use Photoshop for this. I'd encourage you to give it a shot. I mean, and see how it works for your subject matter and your workflow. It's great in product photography if you don't want to mess with that satanic bellows device from California that I was sent. It's gone now, thank goodness.
Hey, Graham, what'd you have to say?
Well, it's a slightly different subject, really, but Nick mentioned crystals, and I've just spent the whole day actually at a microscope meeting, and there I had a long talk with a chap called Bevel Templeton Smith, who does crystal photography for a living, and he doesn't stack at all. Thought I'd just mention that.
Yeah,
Worth a look. He got fine art photographer of the year with his photographs. So it's quite interesting if you look up his name sometime.
Yeah, actually for crystals,
it's Bevil. A funny name, I know. Bevel Templeton Smith.
Yeah, I find that for doing crystals, the Helicon focus actually gives me better results than Zyrene.
Which does?
Yeah, but Helicon seems to give me better.
Oh, Helicon.
Yeah, Helicon gives me better crystal results. Don't know why.
I consider myself one of the more prolific crystal photographers around these days, because I really enjoy it. It's what I do for fun. And while it's true that 9 times out of 10, maybe it's 9.5 times out of 10, there's absolutely no reason. There's no reason to stack because you can get everything in focus. If you've got a well set up system and a flat slide, and most of the crystals I put on are a few microns thick. That is not true for all of them. There are some that erupt off the slide in piles of crystal that look spectacular in stereo, but they have to be stacked.
I was just going to say that the discussion today was that generally you can gain different results by stacking, but you can also get different results by not stacking. And sometimes the crystals look better not stacked because some of the detail that's added when you stack interferes with the
could not agree more.
Yeah, they interfere and make the picture too detailed, introduce lines that might affect the art effect of the picture.
I agree. I mean, it's sometimes it's nice to have it just soften as you go into the depth, but sometimes there is a group of crystals I stumbled across last year that look like crazy worlds that just come right up off the slide. It's probably coming off the slide by about 50 microns, but it looks like a volcano from the top. And yeah, that just absolutely has to be stacked if you want it in focus. Anybody
yeah.
else encountered issues with that? And I probably would use Photoshop to stack crystals.
Would you ever turn that, since it does come up, turn it, so you can have a side view?
Yeah, I've done that. I shot it obliquely and made stereo pairs of it.
Hey,
Yeah,
Graham, I just looked up your Bevel Templeton Smith, and you're correct. He has some wonderful, beautiful crystal photography.
Yeah.
To me, the goal is not just to get a lot of bright colors. That's easy to do. But you need to get a scene. You need to have a good artistic composition. And I'll take some time and look at him later. Thank you.
A little tip for you if you're doing crystal photography. What's the name of that thickener? Methyl. It's edible. Methyl.
cellulose.
Yeah, he's experimented with that and got some curved, where crystals are usually straight. Generally, he's getting some curved crystals. So mix a bit of that in with you when you're doing it.
I'm sorry, I missed what chemical you said was the soluble.
Methyl cellulose.
Methyl cellulose.
Wallpaper paste.
They use it for slowing down protozoans.
That's exactly, that's one of the talks today was exactly that. It was slowing down parasemium to look at the way the cilia work.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another story for another time.
Yeah, Bud just squashes them in a swimming pool, but it's the same idea.
So I have 22 new crystal slides on my desk now that I'll go through that I created yesterday. And I'll go through those today.
Hey, Allan.
Yes.
No, you were showing us how to make a circular thing out of a cover slip.
Yes.
Can you make a hole in the cover slip and do just the opposite of what you've done?
Haven't tried, but I bet I could, thanks to this thing.
What is that thing?
This thing is a scribe that Graham was talking about, and this I've been using a diamond tipped, or can't remember, carbide tipped drill bits. This is twice as sharp.
Amazon?
Amazon, yeah.
It's called a scribe?
Scribe. It came with 20 carbide tips, and it cuts perfect circles out of cover slips.
Say, if you can do that, would you throw a couple in that box you're going to send me?
Yeah. You want if I can do a hole?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be I imagine that would be a bit harder, but I'll give it a try.
I know you like a contest.
Yeah. You ever done that, Graham? You ever cut a hole in a cover slip?
I reckon it's
on purpose.
90% impossible.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
So let me tell you what I'm thinking though, Allan. I want to use that as a light pipe. So imagine my swimming pool that's a piece of tape with a hole punched in the center of it so I can trap things in a very small place. It gives some thickness so I don't crush the Daphnia with the cover slip. So it depends on whether I need 2 pieces of tape or 3. I made things and you just hole punch them so you have some depth. Now you can't use a high-powered thing because you'll go right through your cover glass. You don't have that kind of room. So maybe up to 20 is about max, but just the same, you can keep the Daphnia alive, the water flea, and he's just trapped. He can't move, but he's not dying either. And it's kind of fun to do that. You can watch them and watch their heartbeat and all the other stuff. But what I want to do is to fire a flash and use that hole in a cover slip as a light pipe to illuminate.
Use a thin piece of acrylic instead. That you will be able to drill a hole in.
Okay. I'm not sure how thin I can get. Is it thin as a...
You can get it. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You can get really fine drill bits. Just go into a jewelry section for your bits.
And a jewelry section use a Dremel or something like that?
Well, yeah, Dremels or yeah, they have really, really fine stuff because they're scribing also, but at the same time they're
if you get a really, really thin, I mean, it doesn't even have to be acrylic, just plastic like this. you can cut a hole in that with a punch, and that will be about the right thickness, and it will act like a light tube. Light won't escape from it once it gets in the edge.
Packing tape might do the same thing. I can hole punch it.
Yeah, except it's got adhesive on it.
Won't the fact that you're cutting a radius on the ID, won't that act as a lens and focus the light?
Don't know.
Yeah.
To be determined.
Could.
Wouldn't it be better to use a square opening? So that you could have even lighting?
The other thing I could do is just chop some cover slips in half or quarters and make a perimeter.
But I've got an idea. If you use the ultra thick, ultraviolet resin and make a circle or whatever around your subject, and then squish it down to the amount you want, and then just harden it with a ultraviolet torch, then you can have whatever thickness you want.
Interesting. Okay, I'll give that a shot. That's a good idea.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I've got hundreds of these. I had the same idea, and I'll send some to you, bud. I mean, they're all different thicknesses.
Will they transmit light from a flash?
White ones do, the black ones don't. The Bondic's clear, so that should. I found this white stuff on sale on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's just UV setting resin, and you can squish it as flat as you need it. Great idea.
You get clear stuff as well, Bud. You go for the ultra thick, the high viscosity one, then it's like well, it's just like thick glue really, but you can squish it, and then you can always you can always put a spacer under each end if you want to make it completely the right height, and then just set it and it'll stay where it is.
Well, I got the idea from the microbe hunter because he was having trouble, killing things that you can see, and he wanted to see these organisms, these Daphnia, and so he was using cover slips to make a bridge, basically.
Mm-hmm.
2 cover slips with one across the middle, but I found that still wasn't tall enough, so I went to that tape with a hole punch. But
there's one other thing cover slips are fantastic for, is if you position them face to face with a very slight angle using resin to hold them apart at one end. They make a swimming pool that's vertical, and you can stand this thing up and photograph living organisms in a lateral position.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
One other thing I learned today actually is if you use one of the indented microscope slides, and it might not work with what you're talking about because it might be too small. Use a drop of water in the middle, and then put a ring of paraffin, clear paraffin around the outside, and put your another slide on top. It stops the water evaporating, and you can keep organisms alive for 2 or 3 days to look at them.
Well, that is cool. Okay.
Cool.
So Graham, in that scenario, if you flash the side of that slide that has an indent, like a little swimming pool, how does it refract the light, I wonder?
I suspect the light will stay within the confines of the glass as much as possible, but it will come out where the light is, where the glass is bent, curved. So I don't know how it will come out, but
I've been using the concave, the well slides for looking for like the one I did with the mosquito larvae, and I find that I don't really get any distortion as long as I stay pretty much in the middle of the well, but it allows me to not have to worry about the water running off or having to make any modifications to the slide. I just put a couple of drops into the well slide, and it seems to work just fine. And I can put a cover slip on top. And
you not find the wells are just too deep to be particularly practical? To me, that's there's too much vertical room for them to swim out of focus.
They're just a concave very, very shallow, but just just a smidge of depth to them, so that like a drop or two of water with a cover slide, and you don't get a lot of problems with it wicking out.
Yeah, just even a drop of water on a slide is at 40x is not enough depth to track anything. But a lot of things like to stay at the top or at the bottom. So, I mean, you can anticipate that.
I also find that if you put a little acetone in the water, it tends to slow the larva right down.
It slows them
There you
down.
go.
It
Gotta
slows
kill
them
it.
down to like 0, I think.
Larry the larva was shot after he had a little drink of acetone.
Well, it didn't do him any harm. He looked fantastic.
Yeah, little Alabama backwoods.
Yeah.
I could have used Everclear, but I had acetone.
Yeah, that would be alcohol abuse. Don't waste that.
Well, I got a jug of Everclear I use for crystal making, but I just grabbed acetone for Larry, and it did slow down. So because trying to get a focus stack with a moving object is very hard to do.
It is.
And he liked to but if I moved the slide over the light, then he would kind of zip around as he was coming over the light beam, and it was.
Yeah.
But when he was done, Julie, did you give him cement boots?
It was kind of hard to fit him. So.
Well, guys, I tell you what. Unless does anybody have a photograph that they wanted to look at while we have Bud here, or anybody got another topic they want to bring up? A complaint?
I sent Bud a photograph yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did on Discord.
Oh, didn't
there you
catch
go.
it. Let's see what we got.
While Bud's locating it, what was the issue with it, Diane?
Well, the issue is, so I'm up in, what do they call it? The stratosphere in Seattle.
Oh.
And looking down at the rooftop of another building. And there's these.
Was it Bill's house?
No, I don't think so. But there were bugs on it. Okay. They were copper bugs. And I tried everything I could to try to make that like more prominent in the image, and I was going crazy. So
okay.
Bud.
Where did you park it?
In the AfterStack group.
Okay.
And as a zip file.
Let's see.
Because I lost your email address.
Well, Bud is looking for that. I have another question for Graham on those crystals.
Yeah.
Was this a group, a Zoom meeting that you're in or part of to learn about this Templeton Smith?
No, he posts on I don't know, Facebook or Instagram or something like that.
Both.
But he doesn't belong to a group. No. So I can't tell you. There is a crystal photography Facebook group.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm active.
Yeah. Okay. But no, he doesn't. He does it himself, and just that's all he does basically.
I'm learning that some of the very, very best people are not part of that group.
Yeah, he's one of them, I guess.
They're all in this group, though.
All right.
I did ask him whether he knew you, Alan. He said no. So
well, there you go.
He hasn't got there yet.
That's he's got a ways to go, but we'll be here when he does. You find it, Bud?
Yeah, I just downloaded them. Let me see if we can get them open now.
All right. Interesting.
Is it a picture of Seattle Tower shadow kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's what she said, Bud. It was.
Yeah, I wasn't listening. So let's open this one and see what it looks like.
It should be a raw file.
No, this is a NEF, it looks like. Let me share the screen then, I guess. Let's go to Zoom so everybody can see what we're dealing with. And share. This is the one?
Mm-hmm. See the spiders?
Oh my God. Are they the size of the warehouse?
Yeah, they're on top of this warehouse next door. So I thought it was like this, you know, an alien sort of creation. I was going to crop it down to chop off the top banding. I like the banding because I think it's kind of sort of a bizarre thing. So I liked it. So I was going to crop it more to a square. So I was going to have just 3 of the cut-ins.
Oh, don't you think the perspective of the cars and everything down there just,
Well, I mean, yeah, it's fine.
it makes it so sci-fi.
But look at that. I mean, they are sharp. And that's through a window.
Look, help me understand. Where are these?
They're on top of some building right next to the stratosphere. When you go up near on the top or on the way up.
You mean the needle?
Yeah, no, I don't know what it's called.
These are daddy long legs. Where?
Yeah.
But they're daddy
They're
long legs aren't
sculptures.
40 feet long. So
They're
Right.
sculptures.
They're sculptures on top of the building.
Oh, are they?
They were too.
I thought it was spiders on the window, and I thought it was a brilliant photograph.
Well, I'll keep it that way if you want.
So you're talking about cropping down here somewhere?
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
And
I think they're harvest
that's
men.
probably it. Because then I like the openness of the bottom and the openness of the top. That's fine. Yep. I'm happy with that.
I had no idea. Did you know there were bugs on that building, Bill?
No,
No one knew but me.
So what did you want to do with it from here?
Well, I needed to, so I like the shadow of the needle onto the thing, but I wanted to bring these and bring them almost to like a reddish black.
The spiders?
So you could really see them. I wanted to change the color a bit.
So you wanna
Because it's
increase the
copper, and it was
contrast
just, I would either have to draw it in, which was driving me crazy.
Well,
Yeah, how would you mask those out?
Yeah, they were not masking well at all. Even when I did color and
well, let's just
let's play.
try a few things and see if it works. Doesn't work, you know. One of the things you could try, I guess, let's put us what do you call it, hue saturation filter on there. And let's get the little thing, and we'll come up here. Now, you know that you can change the color of something. If you just use this normally, it changes the saturation, right? So you can make
yeah,
you can make them redder just with the saturation slider a little bit. But you
okay.
can also change the hue by holding down the I think it's the command key. Let's see if that'll do it. So we can make them all kinds of colors just by holding down the command key when you have the hue saturation open.
So are you going into the master color, or are you just going into the red?
I'm just in the master.
Okay.
Could you zoom in a little?
Yes, of course.
wow.
So we've made them a little redder.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to increase the contrast of them, we would probably need to somehow make this area get darker, right?
Right.
So let's put us a curve on there just to see what we can play with, because we know with our blend if we can control what gets dark and what doesn't. So let's go and hold it over here, and you'll see over to the right on my curves, you can see where that color lies on the scale, right? You see the dot moving on the
curve,
on the curves over there. And you can see that this lighter tan area is even a little higher, but they're not very far apart. Okay. So let's take this area right here, and when we click it, we get a dot that forms and stays over here. Okay. So now if we pull straight down, we can make that darker. And if we take the other one, we can, where it was, we can make it a little bit lighter. So we've effectively increased the contrast on the bug's body. Does that look about right to you? Is that too much?
Yeah, that's much better than I was getting.
And so at this point, I'm going to back out a little bit. just so we can see the effect of it. Okay,
You could darken the shadow.
and we can
Which is
darken the
fine.
shadow as well. So let's take,
Which is good because the needle is in shadow, and I think that's, you know,
I want
very
to go to
realistic.
Seattle just to see these things.
Oh my gosh, it was worth it.
so if we go and let's put up a second curve. And this second curve, what we want to do is to darken down the shadows, which is pretty much a mid-tone.
Mhm.
So we can get the whole thing looking a little darker. Now we need the whole picture darkened down, as you can see. So we need to sort of protect that roof, don't we?
Yeah, so what about the other spider in the back? Is it going too dark, or is it just? Because we got,
We can always, since we have a mask, we can paint that out,
oh, okay.
black paint. But what I want to do first is to do the, let's do a blend if and start saving the light stuff. So as we slide this lower thing toward the left, you can see that the roof comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's use our option key and split this, and we can sort of fine tune it with a feather so that it looks more normal. And we've made some improvements, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now if you want these legs, let's see which one is giving us the most contrast. Is it this one? I got to close this first. So let's turn off this. That's some of it right there.
Right.
Think about this one. That actually lightened it up. So let's go back to this one.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to click on this and we're going to get a paintbrush with a black. So when we have a black paintbrush, we can remove. So basically we can take and go back to this level, right?
All right.
So let's take our brush. I'm going to put opacity 100%. I'm going to reduce the flow to say 10%. I'm going to magnify it up so everybody can see it. Is that good, Bill?
Yeah.
I can't believe how sharp this is.
And so, I mean, right now, with both of them together, we've got this. So
That's
let's
not
paint
bad.
out this one a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make my brush a bit smaller and just see how it works. And let's paint along here. The flow keeps putting it down, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And so we can lighten these areas up pretty good. And maybe this one as well. This one bit.
I like the copper on the roof from the shadow. That is so good.
So let's see how we look. Is that more to your liking, or you want to?
Yeah, that's getting it right. Because now you know what you're looking at.
We got some reddish color that popped up here. That was from our hue saturation. So we can use our black paintbrush.
Mm-hmm.
We can go back there and knock that down maybe at 50%. And let's see what. So we could just take it down wherever it was a problem.
So we could also lighten up again the Space Needle because now that's gotten too dark.
Okay, so let's back out. And if we want to lighten the Space Needle, it would probably be one of these two, right?
Yep, there you go. You just got it.
So let's, this one is part of the problem. So let's put black here to block whatever we're doing. So we have black, we have 50%, and we can just slowly paint this in. Let's make it a bit stronger. So we're just painting in with black paint to hold back the effect. Maybe we can go to 100%.
Because I just like that blue and the copper was just a nice compliment. Well, you're getting a much better, yeah, there we go.
This is where I wanted to be though.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can make the brush a bit smaller. And then we can come down this area here. Sort of like that.
Yep.
What else?
That was it.
Success?
Success.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's, go ahead.
I said, how big are those?
Oh, they're about 15, 20 feet wide.
Oh dear, had me completely fooled. Brilliant.
Well, I could have submitted it then.
You should have done. My goodness.
That's a sick individual that made those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like
somebody
to meet
did,
that
so-
person.
Yeah, one thing I saw when I was in Palm Springs one time is somebody had taken a Volkswagen Bug and welded spider legs to it and had it up in the air proportionally to the size of the Volkswagen Bug's body to make it look like a real spider bug thing. And it was like some sculpture by the Burger King on Bob Hope Drive or something. It was, you know.
Where was this?
It was in the Palm Springs area when I was living in Southern California. So it was strange when I saw it the first time.
I have a question.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I have a question for Bud.
Sure.
Years ago, I did use BlendIf. I've not used BlendIf in a long time, and you just did. Could you kind of review how moving that bottom slider differentiated between the spider and the rooftop?
Yeah, be glad to. So let's just open BlendIf again.
I'll go to YouTube and read about it on my own, but thank you.
No. This is easy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna basically move all these sliders back to where they were. The only one I tend to use is the one called underlying layer. And I renamed that layer in my mind, called it protection. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're protecting certain parts of the photo.
Right. So we have a grayscale from dark to light. If I want to protect the lights, I move these to the middle. Everything on the outside of the sliders now is excluded from the effect.
And so that would be the rooftop that's brighter than the spider.
See? So when you hit the shade of gray of the rooftop, all of a sudden it's no longer used. And when you use the option key and you click this thing, it splits that so you can feather your effect.
Okay, I recall some of that, but thank you.
So basically, from here to here, no effect. From here to here is
Feather.
the edge of a brush that fades, and then total effect is here.
Total, feather, and none, reading left to right.
So total, feather, none.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
And you can overlap these. So if I can take and split this one and I can bring it all the way to the other side. You can play with it as much as you want to until you get just the effect you want. And so, see what I'm doing with the shadow basically by doing that? See the tower?
Yes.
So I'm protecting some of that shadow. I can protect more. So you can use that to protect both the shadows and the highlights at the same time. So think of this as protection. And all you're doing is you're dividing the grayscale pixels from black pixels to white pixels, and then you're protecting. So I've got an effect that basically is a curve with a strong contrast, but I'm only allowing it to be right here. So this is protected on the blacks, and this is protected on the whites. And the black side then is full effect, no effect, and then a gradient effect. So no effect for blacks, the blacks are protected, and then I feather it out up into the whites.
And then no effect further right.
Right.
And to this, yeah, there would be When we're dealing with the blacks, yeah, but anything to the right of the blacks is always going to be full effect. It's just there's no effect because it's in the white side, not the black side.
Okay.
Is that a mask?
No, but it can be made into a mask.
Oh, okay.
Right now, it is not a mask, but if you use the TK system, you see this thing up here?
Yeah.
That icon right there will allow you to take blend if and create a mask with it. So all of these things that the TK actions, they're only actions. It's all about Photoshop. There's nothing here that is non-Photoshop. He's just put 10 steps into one button. So you don't have to think about it. And for 35 bucks, that's a deal.
Worth it.
And you could have used the TK actions to lighten the shadow of the tower if you wanted.
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, if you go to here, this, you see, this is a burn icon. You've probably seen that in Photoshop. This creates it with a black, gray background and an overlay. This creates it with just a transparent background. So this is the dodge. So if I wanted to dodge, I could put in a dodge layer. Let me get out of here. So I could put in a dodge layer. You see how it pops up as a dodge? Got it as overlay. It has picked out the brush and has put white as a foreground. It's done all of that for you. Okay. So now as I paint, I can dodge.
Wow.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It just makes it quick.
Yeah, so then you could change the strength of that dodge layer after you
And go into edit and
yeah, so you could
This opacity slider works.
yeah, okay.
yeah, that's perfect. That's a great complement of color. That's why I liked it.
Oh yeah, I love the bluish shadow. That was great.
This was like the brightest day in October that you could ever want. It was crystal clear. You could see the mountains. Unbelievable.
Now, if you wanted to put texture on that roof, how would you put texture there? Let's say you wanted the roof to look a little grainy.
Well, I would probably just, select that as a highlight, and then I would put a little bit of noise in it, but to try and protect the spiders as much as possible.
Just use a little high pass filter and screen it in or overlay it in and mask out the spiders or blend if, but that would raise the texture lines in the roof.
So if we went to, you need to do that on a pixel layer, do you not?
Yeah. I usually do
All
a
right,
stamp.
so let's just do a stamp, right?
And then copy the stamp and do the high pass on the top copy.
You can just do it on the stamp. You don't have to do a copy, do you?
Oh, I do, because it gives me ability to make the copy a smart object and play with it.
All right, so we have a smart object. You can see the corner.
Yeah,
In
then
the
run the
TK
high
system,
pass.
this up here makes a stamp.
Yeah.
Right here makes a stamp. One below it makes a smart object.
Yeah.
So everything's done very easily in these actions for you. All right, so we have this. Now you want to put a filter and you want to go to high pass.
Yeah, about 8 to 10 pixels.
That's a radius of 10.
Yeah, so I usually do it like around, you look at the lines there and you just slide it till the roof lines become a little bit more prominent. So you just kind of, usually you have to go lower on this technique.
That's 5.
Yeah, I usually find that round 9 is about where I want it. And,
what about me?
yeah. And then
you just say okay.
Yeah, they say okay, and then you change the blend mode to screen. Oh no, sorry, overlay. And then if you toggle that on and off, you could see that it's bringing out more detail in some of the edges. You know, like around the lights, I guess, is where it's happening the most.
Yeah, I think that actually benefits it. That was what I was thinking is
Yeah.
the detail. And there's a
Yeah.
little bit of detail in the
Yeah.
statues as well.
Yeah, then you could lower the opacity or mask out like where you don't want the effect.
Well, yeah, the bright spots now is the truck and the top corner of the building. So those are drawing attention more than the spiders. So
Here, you mean?
on top of the actual truck.
Yeah.
Or whatever the air conditioning unit is.
Here?
No. Over right straight down from the spider. Go to your
Yeah. So you can mask it out
darkening,
from
I mean, here's the mask.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, you paint it black, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just come in here and
Well, that made it white.
That made it whiter, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So but you could
you can come up here and burn it in.
Yeah.
I'll put a burn layer up here and then we'll got black brush and we can just burn it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's more of a shadow. That's great. That brings you right to the spiders. And a little bit on the top corner of the building. Top of the image. Yeah, just a little bit up there.
So let me reduce it down a bit. My flow to say, I don't know, 10%, 12%.
Perfect. Look at that. Yeah.
Wow.
A little vignette.
Awesome.
Would you ever use AI to pull out the bars from the window?
Nope. No. To me, that makes the picture.
Great.
You know, because it's a graphic, you know, what's going on, where is this person behind, you know, some bars in some, you know, foreign country, you know, you never know.
Like you're in some cell or something.
Yeah, so you know, what's that orb?
It's got a Blair Witch Project feel to it.
That didn't make me dizzy, and it made a lot of people dizzy. That was a really bizarre film.
Yeah.
They made a lot of money off of $100,000 investment.
You ain't kidding.
What do you think, bud? Anybody else?
No, it looks great to me. I might kill this spot over here again. Let's see.
Yeah, that would be good.
Nick, did you have something you were asking?
I was just gonna, once we were finished with Diane's great picture, but the Google Drive thing. Because I thought we were going to try and move things to, you know, sort of with sharing stuff.
Yeah, that
so
was.
I can just put it in here.
Go ahead, Nick. I interrupted you.
That's right. I think Diane was coming. Diane, were you finishing off with yours, or you?
Yeah, we're finished with this. I thought I couldn't get. I didn't try to put stuff in, so I was going to try and do it that way, but wasn't.
Yeah, what I've done is I've got two different Google Drive folders set up. One is for AfterStack, one is for Presume.
All right,
it's just anything that you have that you want to share with us. If you drop it in there, and then just let me know at a live stream or whatever that there's a picture, or text me. It's just it's not only a way for us to drop pictures for Bud and I to get, it's so that other people can access them and work on them and look at them, that type of thing. So anything we need to share.
Well, yeah, because I would say that if I put something in there, I'll put like, you know, create your own image from it.
Yeah.
And share that and see what everybody comes up with. I think that's
absolutely.
How do we get access to those?
I will no, I've already published in this week's blog on my website. I published the link to the Presume. I think it was the Presume one. But no, that was I published them somewhere. I'll find them and I'll send them out before the next Zoom meeting. With the Zoom announcement this week, I will send the link, both links.
Okay, and yeah, because I picked up the Zoom one off the last weekend's Zoom video, which I think was on Patreon.
That is right. I'd already had it in place by then. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's the AfterStack one that
It's the AfterStack one, and that will be, if it's not already in my post, which it should be, but if it's not, it will be in Monday's post. I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, I see you doing your little touch of gold.
What do you think? Better or
I
worse?
like it. It really, now that spider is, they're both popping off the screen.
So all it did was made a camera raw smart filter, right? So smart object, camera raw filter from the top. And I like to see what calibration does. And this bottom slider, I call it sunshine. You know, it just brings things
really
up.
just, yeah.
You just play with it. And I never use the hue, hardly ever. I mean, you could. If I take the hue and start sliding, you can see you get all kinds of variations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever your taste is. But I like to use this quite a bit. I like it better than hue saturation often.
Yeah, I think it's a great finishing touch along with sharpening, but I think with the high pass filter, it doesn't need any more sharpening.
You can also do a blend mode on sharpening and take out the white side of the algorithm.
Okay.
And so all that leaves you is the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you're putting little dark highlights everywhere, which can give you the appearance of, you know, texture.
Okay. So, Bud, when are you starting tutorials and or private lessons?
Hey, you call me with a question. I got time.
All right. Thank you very much, Bud.
Yeah. Whoever put the picture of that in the chat, that's
that
the
was me.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
I thought it was. There's a picture of Julie's Volkswagen Bug in the chat. Very impressive sculpture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, imagine having, sitting in the parking lot having some Burger King and you look up and see that.
Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing.
I love it. That's just exactly my kind of artwork there. It's a real Volkswagen too. It's a Volkswagen Bug.
He
All
had
right.
fun.
Bud, do you know what you want to talk about next week? Next 2 weeks from now?
You had said something about sharpening. Is everybody good with sharpening? You want to look at
I think that's a great idea.
ways to do it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sharpening it is.
Sharpening. I'll get my knives out.
Yeah.
So everybody bring at least, since it's a round table, your favorite way of sharpening, and let's just see how what everybody has stumbled on to over their period of time of processing.
Bud, thank you so much. This is awesome. And Allan, thank you. This was a great start to
all right.
More things.
And Allan, the AfterStack Google Drive link is in your blog. I've just found it, so we can get to both of them. I think perhaps the Zoom one might not be so accessible at this moment, but
that's on purpose. The Zoom one's only accessible to my Patreon folks. That's why it's over on the Patreon site.
Yeah, lovely.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming, Bud. Thank you for a wonderful session today. A lot of really cool stuff, and that was fun. We will do it again in 2 weeks.
Enjoyed it, everybody.
Thank you. Hey, guys,
have a great weekend.
Yeah. See y'all later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for making that thing, Allan.
Oh, you bet. I'll have it to you. I'm just going to put the inserts in. They're all ready to go, and we'll get it sent to you. Oh, I'm going to test it before I send it.
Is that a coffee holder?
It's not good as a coffee holder.
It's going to grab the fine focus knob of a microscope and allow the microscope to focus stack at 1/10 of a micron.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Using
Okay, I'm moving into one of you guys' houses. That's all I can say.
Yeah, 'cause
Or
I've
my
been u-
sister.
That's
if
what
you
I'm
want.
I've been
gonna.
using, yeah, I've been using video, adjusting the fine focus slowly using video and then stripping the frames out and stacking those. And that's how I did Larry, was taking video. And
I think that's what our friend Jay has been doing as well. So
have you seen the new Canon sensor? This 25K or something
Yeah,
ridiculous.
they've gone crazy.
They've gone nuts.
Yeah, well, my husband's getting me an R7 for my birthday.
Ooh.
So
well, tell him my birthday's coming up too.
Yeah, really.
it was a choice of that or the $68,000 telescope, so I decided the R7 was a better deal.
A better deal. Yeah. Well, I think the new Nikon 7 III is scheduled to come out sometime in early fall, and it's going to have a 60 megapixel sensor.
Yeah, but it needs
It's
a
also
global
got-
shutter, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does it really
have a
need a global shutter? I mean,
Probably
does
not.
it really need one?
Well, what they're going to do is they have video, I forget, 8K or something ridiculous, but you can pull out of that video 33 megabyte frames.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay,
every
my
10th
birthday's coming
every
up.
10th frame and you're stacked.
Yeah. Diane, Keith and I already have your birthday present picked out. So.
Oh, okay.
But,
All right, guys. Take care.
It was fun.
All right, take care.
Take care.